In the last 2 years, I've done a crazy amount of super wide grip pull-ups. Inspired by old school greats like Leroy Colbert, my lower lats have improved more than with anything else I've tried in my lifting journey. As I've stressed many times, it feels like being pulled apart by medieval horses. The upper arms are diagonal, naturally limiting humeral elevation, pulling the pure frontal plane with the elbows coming directly into your sides, thus providing an optimal lat squeeze and alignment since the lats attach to the spine. On top of that, the difficulty is next level. Just to say, I've done 2 plates for 15 reps on weighted chin-ups, yet struggle in the 5 to 8 rep range with the same weight using a super wide grip. And for 1 rep maxes, it's effectively a whole plate less, around 40 to 60 pounds, which is a huge deal when you're brutally strong at pull-ups. You don't want to be overloading every session, as it's harder on recovery and can even cause golfer's elbow. So I'm always searching for more difficult variations that are relatively similar, which applies to presses and pulls. And so, towards the end of my recent bulk, I reintroduced behind the neck presses, since I was exclusively AD pressing 185 to 225 for reps, and being in the 1 to 1.2 times bodyweight multiplier range was killing my recovery. So I swapped it for behind the neck presses to get more range of motion at the bottom, and to have a pure vertical press, with the arms out to bias the side delts and train weaker joint angles. And guess what? It worked beautifully. I never exceeded 135 for reps, which was precisely what I needed stimulus to fatigue ratio wise. Ironically, the reduction in absolute load was also easier on the shoulder joints, despite being in a more dangerous position. You can learn more about this here, by the way. So when E3 Rehab's groundbreaking video came out, alongside training with Dr. Mike and better understanding load management and how there are no bad positions, my entire perspective on exercise selection changed. This eventually led to me maximizing difficulty and range of motion for many other risky compound movements, like ass to grass good mornings. Of course, this naturally made me curious about applying this philosophy to my favorite back builder, pull-ups. What's the one hardcore variation that I'd never tried, even though I was a calisthenics bro? Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's the behind the neck pull-up. This made even more sense since I'm a big believer in performing opposing movement patterns. Basically, if I'm doing behind the neck presses, I also want to complement them with behind the neck pull-ups. The transition was natural, since I'd spent the last 2 years specializing in super wide grip pull-ups, which feature very similar pulling angles, just with an added layer of difficulty. And therein lies the pro and con. You must be strong enough to do them. Like advanced, bro. So if you can do 15 chin-ups, you probably can't even do 5 behind the neck pull-ups. And if you have not built the necessary tissue capacity with super wides, please do not try these. The standard is 1 plate for sets of 6 to 10, because when you go behind the neck, your reps will drop again, at least -5 or -1 plate at the start. So you still want to be in the hypertrophy rep range, or be able to hit your body weight in a fatigue state, which is my preferred way of programming this. More on that later. The major contributor behind this difficulty is that this is the only pull-up in existence that maintains a fixed 100% vertical pull. Not even rings can offer this, since their freedom allows you to lean back and pull front to back in space. When you're behind the neck with a bar, you have no choice but to stick your head forward. So the cue is not chin up, it's chin down. At the top, your upper traps and neck area are level with the bar. It's literally impossible to lean back unless you're at the bottom, which I actually would advise, to establish a smooth pulling rhythm. And the head will not be neutral when you pull up, or else you'll smash the bar and perform partials. You have to practically dive into the pull. Not even behind the neck pull downs can replicate this, because the direction of resistance is at a slight angle. And if you face upside down, you lose too much stability, which isn't ideal for hypertrophy. So unless you're training at home with a special rear strapping system, most of you will not be able to match the movement pattern that behind the neck pull-ups offer. Therefore, what we have for the first time is a wide grip pull-up on steroids. It amplifies the key biomechanical factors while improving the stimulus to fatigue ratio, which was already amazing, ensuring that we cannot cheat the movement. Even though you can get a nice upper back squeeze and retraction at the top, almost resembling a barbell back squat, this is indeed a lat-biased pull-up because of the true 100% vertical pull, and wide grip, naturally limiting humeral elevation. Of course, the way I do it with a complete dead hang provides more shoulder health and mobility gains, but you don't have to do this for pure lat hypertrophy, which I personally don't care for. I want this to be the best overall mass builder, which also limits how heavy I need to go while bulletproofing me at the same time. Anyway, normal wide grip pull-ups when leaning back already open you up, but when the head is also through, that's the real test of how supple you are. Try it. I promise that you'll instantly feel the difference. This will fix anyone's kyphotic posture and goes a long way in assisting overhead lockout mobility. So I want the extra lower trap recruitment, which further increases difficulty and looks cooler. So regular wide grip pull-ups are about 80 to 90% vertical because you could easily lean back at the bottom and top. This contrasts with exercises like seated overhead presses from the front versus behind the neck, or a military press with a more upright bench angle compared to a slightly declined AD press. Make sense? Now, going back to form, behind the neck pull-ups are most similar to super wide grip pull-ups, but I don't actually advise using the same grip width. Because you can't coordinate around the bar, the top end is slightly more difficult, and with the arms fully out, you'll naturally end up using more biceps given the resultant force. It's harder, yes, but not in a way that's favorable for back hypertrophy. Through performing thousands of repetitions, I've found that a regular wide grip just outside the widest neutral grip handle offers the best balance. Muscularly and strength curve wise, it'll feel exactly the same as a super wide grip pull-up from the front, even though you're grabbing closer. Take it from experience. This is the only grip you'll ever need. If you really need more variety, consider adjusting tempo, adding pauses, or mixing in chains. The forms should always be vertical, maybe a few inches out. And on a side note, this is actually how Jason Statham performs this exercise, as seen in the movie Death Race. Notice the false grip as well. This feels better on the shoulders since you're less internally rotated and allows for superior wrist alignment. I especially like doing this on the fat side of my pull-up bar, which even reduces golfer's elbow. Talk about being the ultimate more or less weight pull-up that won't destroy you. Isn't that badass? Plus, when you record yourself, you look super jacked, which is a motivating reason in itself to do it, especially as a content creator. It's satisfying, both visually and in execution. And this enjoyment factor can enhance adherence to your long-term programming. Speaking of which, there are really two ways to go about this. Either behind the neck pull-ups are a main movement to your back workout or a secondary accessory. If it's the first option, you'll either open the workout with weighted chin-ups, ring chins, or neutral, close to medium grip pull-ups. The key is to keep your arms tucked in and in front of the body. Never flare it out for complementary purposes. You'll also want to lift very heavy. This is your overloading pull, aiming to maximize strength with the best leverages and relatively higher percentages. You can do back offsets, but you should stay in a reasonable rep range like 5 to 10, at most 12. And occasionally test your AMRAP on a final weighted set where you peak around 15 reps. Work with big weights in a low to moderate rep range. I like hitting a heavy single at 80-90% or a 1 to 5 rep max as my opener. Then followed up with 2 sets of 5 to 10 reps. After this, the nervous system is primed, and you no longer need to maximize absolute load for what comes later. So this is where behind neck pull-ups come in. It's not redundant since it's a harder, different arm path where the lats have good leverage at the top. In a way, it's the true back offset approach. Instead of doing 3 to 5 sets of weighted chin-ups, you're better off dividing that volume equally with, let's say, 2 to 3 sets of weighted chin-ups, then 2 sets of behind the neck pull-ups. This factors in natural fatigue. Here, the load will come way down, and you can include sideboard technique if you so choose to. The hypertrophic stimulus will be the same, so I advise moderate to higher reps here. The 8 to 15 zone is perfect, since in many cases, even body weight will be sufficient from a difficulty perspective, and since you're tired. Otherwise, you may have at most 25 to 45 pounds hanging off, especially if you're a bigger guy. It's mind-blowing. You could have done heavy sets of chins with 2.5 to 3 plates, and now you're stripped to a body weight with behind the neck, or a fraction of that load to add quality volume. That's why it's my number one, muscle biasing aside. It's a true more or less weight exercise and doubles down on the difficulty and recoverability factors. You really don't need to overload these. Now, the second option is treating behind the neck pull-ups as a main mover, but being the only calisthenics vertical pull for this workout. This is best done on a B day. I'd program it with 2 sets of 5-day reps with an optional heavy set of 1 to 3 beforehand, followed by 2 sets of an underhand or neutral lat pull down. Notice that you're maintaining the same complementary pattern as the pull-ups, but in reverse. Then, end with any row of your choice. Although if you're not doing 2 variations of pull-ups or chin-ups, an inverted row will be the best option for overall strength carryover and will better feed into your A workout, where that third row wouldn't matter as much, although being bent forward would be perfect for general programming on your A day. Anyway, that's all you really need to know about form and when to program behind neck pull-ups. This is exactly what I've done throughout the entirety of my recent bulk and cut, and I can confirm that the back gains have been virtually identical to super wide grip pull-ups, just that I didn't have to go as heavy, which was a big benefit to me as an advanced puller. So you can't go wrong with either, but it's great knowing that you have yet another style to dial up the effort with extra benefits. Like I said, it's not as dangerous as you might expect on paper or at first glance. It looks and feels badass without causing problems. The risk to reward ratio is quite favorable. The only downside is that it's not for everyone in the sense that you need to be strong at pull-ups to reap the benefits. Not that you're structurally not built for it. So in summary, behind the neck pull-ups are a true 100% vertical pull, resembling medieval torture in its intensity and unique form. Pulling the pure frontal plane with elbows tight into your sides maximizes lat engagement. Behind neck pull-ups are the toughest wide grip pull-up. Requires advanced pull-up strength and tissue capacity. So you should be able to hit one plate for sets of 6 to 10 on normal super wides first. It's lat bias and promotes shoulder health and mobility while minimizing the need for heavy loading, making it ideal for hypertrophy. The optimal grip width is slightly narrower, featuring vertical forearms. The pulling form is to dive forward with your chin down. You can lean back during the dead hang, but never at the top. In terms of exercise order, behind neck pull-ups can be done as a main movement or secondary pull, offering a unique blend of difficulty, effectiveness, and enjoyment. If you're a real pull-up beast and you've been following my calisthenics content for a while, this is the next major variation for you to try. Give it a shot, and you'll quickly find a place for it in your long-term program.